Welcome to this episode of the Natural Health Rising podcast. This episode is interesting because it's all about probiotics and the gut microbiome and how probiotics and digestive health really affect the rest of our bodies, our immune system, our skin, our longevity, and beyond. And I feel like there's a lot of confusion around probiotics, prebiotics. So really excited for you to listen to this episode. Really quick, before I get into my guest intro and the rest of the episode, I want to share a Apple podcast review and a client testimonial. So L. Goobs wrote on Apple for the podcast, jam-packed with value, a wealth of wisdom, and actionable tips for holistic health transformation. Thank you, Rachel, for blessing us with your awesome guests and your passion for wellness. Thank you, L. Goobs, for leaving that review. This is an older one. I kind of started back and I'm moving forward. So I just want to do a quick ask. If you've been listening to my podcast and are enjoying it, then take a quick 1-minute break and leave a rating and a review on whatever platform you're listening to so that it helps the podcast gain more traction, get more exposure, and help more people so that they can hear this information and use it for their health. And also really quickly, I want to share a client testimonial from Megan Peters. She said, I would highly recommend Rachel for anyone having any health issue, especially those that are not addressed by their PCP, which is your primary care physician. I worked with Rachel for over 6 months for several health issues that I have dealt with for over 5 years. My issues were GI discomfort, hormone issues, skin rashes, acne, anxiety and depression, and major stress. Rachel was able to run tests that no doctor had ever brought up to me before, and they really did make sense with the health issues I was having. With those results, we were then able to come up with a plan and a supplement protocol to help get my gut health under control, as well as other organ systems. She not only gave me a supplemental protocol that was all natural, but she also worked with me with different ways of reducing stress and calming my body. I looked forward to our video calls as she just brought peace and calm into my life. I was also able to get off of prescription medication as we took a more natural approach. My prescription medications, I believe, are causing some of the other health issues that I had going on. I can't say enough about my experience with Rachel and how much it changed not only my overall health, but my overall outlook on my life, my self-care, and my relationship with others. Thank you, Megan, for that beautiful review. And sharing these reviews on this podcast now, just so that you guys can hear what's possible. That's really what it's for, to hear what's possible with your health, because I know what it's like to feel a little stuck in some chronic health issues and get fed up with doctors and think that things aren't working. But just know that there are other practitioners out there. There's other options out there. You most likely haven't tried everything yet. And so just sharing these testimonials so that you can see the power of functional medicine and holistic health and give you a little bit of hope. Now for my guest for today, Natasha Trenev. Natasha is known as the mother of probiotics and was the first person in North America to introduce the category of probiotic dietary supplements for human use. Her extensive experience and knowledge of the industry began with her family's 750-year history of producing the most beneficial yogurt prized by the royal family of Yugoslavia. Natasha is the founder and president of Natren Inc. Natren's probiotic products come with 40 years of focused, rigorous scientific research and technology from leading scientists and researchers in the field of probiotics. For 40 years, Natasha stated the proper precision probiotic selected beneficial bacteria supplementation will have profound effects on every aspect of human health that includes physical, mental, emotional, skin, and organ health. Enjoy the episode between myself and Natasha. All right, welcome to the show, Natasha.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here with you.
You have a really interesting story with your background with 750-year tradition of your family producing yogurt. And I'm curious if you could tell us how that influenced your journey into the world of probiotics and maybe just share a little bit about that history with your family.
Right. Well, my father and grandfather are Macedonian, and my Macedonian family was making cultured foods, yogurt, and feta cheese, and exporting it to Western Europe way before the time I was born. And apparently, it went on for quite a while because I checked with the cultural ministry of Northern Macedonia to make sure that this was correct for this region, and they said yes, definitely, even possibly longer. But at least 750 years that this was passed on to the people from this region, and they were making their own yogurts and cheese and selling it, or trading it, or whatever the time might be. So my parents were political refugees, and we came to this country when I was 8 years old, and we decided, my father decided to move to California because he felt that was the opportunity state. Long story short, he bought a small manufacturing plant in Glendale, California, and we were the first to introduce real style Bulgarian yogurt, to the American public, and liquid acidophilus. And even though I was in high school and going to college, I was, chosen because the family's English wasn't that great. So I was translating all this material and making it available for them to promote their products. And in the beginning, they were just sold in local health food stores. But when I graduated from UCLA in 1970, my family persuaded me to come and work with them because they felt that there was an opportunity to grow this business. And that's exactly what I did. And in trying to make that more efficient, I set the liquid yogurt standard for the state of California because there was hardly any real standard. And what people don't understand, the standard for a fermented food means that you have to focus on the quality of the organisms that you use to ferment that food and make sure that they're the same organisms, because the organisms that culture, whether it's milk or anything else, are what makes a yogurt or a kefir. You can't call something a kefir and use the same starter culture that you do for yogurt, because, by the way, my family were the first to introduce kefir in this country via Altadena Dairy in California. They were the first ones to get export licenses across 16 states and even ship our product into New York and Hawaii. So I have an extensive background and, setting standards for fermented foods, introducing fermented foods to North America, and getting all this feedback from people who were getting results from this high quality fermented food, which unfortunately I can't say if we have now or not. And because I was so impressed with the number of positive feedbacks I was getting from people from just taking our yogurt and our liquid acidophilus, that led me to a journey to work with the University of Nebraska and other universities in their what I call initial studies of specific strains of beneficial bacteria that, if they're grown properly, stabilized properly, they will impart a very much significant health benefit to the end user. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So with that exclusive license and working with other researchers at USC, even though I'm a UCLA graduate, I was working with a doctor at USC and working with the University of North Carolina and other universities around the country. Just remember, this was a very new field. Nobody knew what, even cultured dairy products were very new in America and undefined, let alone probiotics. Does that make sense? So what I did in the early 1980s, I decided that I saw the term probiotics being used in the animal feed industry. And I said, wait a minute, if these people are raising animals to sell for profit and they're giving these products daily to them. Why aren't human beings taking this daily to stay healthy?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the light bulb went off. And I said, oh my God, we really need to open up a whole category of probiotics for human consumption. And that I was actually the first one to introduce the term probiotics to North America, to Europe, to Australia, to New Zealand, to Singapore, to Mexico. I did 3-day lectures at the University of Guadalajara, their medical school. So I was around the world really doing what I call my missionary work in the 1980s and early 1990s, really explaining to them what probiotics really meant and why only certain beneficial bacteria should be introduced into the body, because it seems that not only the United States, but gut issues were starting to manifest in multiple cultures across the world.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would actually love if you could, I mean, most people know, but for people who don't understand like the essentials or the basics of probiotics, like what does that even mean for people? What is a probiotic and how do they actually work?
Okay, well, first of all, a probiotic means something for life, whereas antibiotic means against the life.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's the whole field has become rather polluted and, compromised, because there are specific beneficial organisms that have evolved with humanity from the beginning of time that have, helped with our immune system, with our digestion, with our mental health, with our skin health, with our organ health, with our health in, for healthy heart, healthy kidneys, healthy liver. All of these microorganisms were essential part of our maintaining our good health. And when you study societies that had these fresh cultured dairy products, which were handled by specific families in those cultures who knew how to identify these starter cultures and make these cultured foods on a level that they would produce results for the people intaking them. So anybody who's taken a yogurt or taken any food in without these beneficial bacteria, you get into a place like we are right now. You have about 80% of the healthcare budget of 4.3 trillion being spent on chronic disease, because the human being is actually a hybrid of microbes and human cells. We have about 100 trillion microbes in our GI tract and about 50 trillion human cells. And the microbes are everywhere in our brain cells, in our mitochondria, in our organs, in our bloodstream. So keeping this optimal ecosystem healthy is really conducive to our overall health. And until and when we understand this, we're going to go down this road of having these chronic illnesses where you have now colon cancer increasing among the young, let alone the elderly. So we saw a 20% increase in colon cancer with those of us that are younger than 40. We see autoimmune diseases on the rise. We see chronic health problems, mental and physical, manifesting across the population.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, I deal with mostly autoimmune people in my business, and I see younger and younger people, and anyone who listens to my podcast or knows me knows that I got an autoimmune disease when I was young. Like I struggled with health problems my whole life, and then when I was 23, I got diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. So it's just crazy as we see younger people getting this, many people getting all sorts of chronic illnesses.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I do this podcast, to bring out this information for people to start to change that.
Well, and I've worked with doctors in leading universities and hospitals all my life. I mean, it's an illustrious list. I work with doctors at Stanford, Cedars-Sinai Hospital, UCLA, Yale University, the Mayo Clinic, the Cleveland Clinic doctors. I mean, literally the best of the best. And one thing I found that most doctors don't understand the complexity or understand what the microbiome is and what the difference is between microbiome and microbiota. It's only stuff they see in the published literature. and it's really geared to treating symptoms, when the whole philosophy should be that you need to optimize the ecosystem in your GI tract, 27 feet long, 100 trillion microbes, with your diet and what you're intaking every day. And that is what's causing all these health problems, because we don't know how to properly enrich this ecosystem to benefit us and make us healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, you mentioned food and nourishing the digestive tract. How does somebody do that?
Well, the thing is that we don't eat processed food. Here's a couple of things. Since I've been in this industry 54 years. So, and I've sat on standards committees for 10 years. My probiotic labeling standard was read into congressional record. So I have a little bit of experience. And so what I'm saying to you is that improving your gut microbiota, you've got to be informed and you've got to know what you're doing. Otherwise, you don't do it, because people think that certain foods are better for you than others. And I think a lot of this information has been convoluted. What it is that I tell people you should be very careful if you're eating raw foods, because raw foods have a background of bacteria in them. That's why they're raw or inorganic. Mm-hmm. And, people don't know how to properly clean their vegetables and fruits. They don't know that, if they're going into a health food store, I'm saying, and you're buying a processed food, that's not healthy for you. What I have found is that people who make their food from scratch, what's in their genetic background, make that food and stick with that food on a healthy basis, and don't look at food as something that you're wolfing down when you're on your desktop or watching TV. That's not healthy. And I've studied these healthy cultures, and one thing is for sure, that the food is local, it's fresh, and there's a history in the family of how to make those foods for that particular region. And and for that particular genetic type.
Yeah, those are all such good tips. Calm, conscious eating habits, local fresh food, making it from scratch, staying away from processed foods. You mentioned cleaning stuff properly. Do you have a specific way that you make sure that you clean your produce if you're doing something raw?
Just use distilled white vinegar, and I use about a half a cup to about a quart of water. I sometimes soak it. Make sure you rinse, and not cross-contaminate. Most people don't even clean their kitchen counters, or they come in from the outside and wash their hands in the sink that they're going to be preparing food in. And I say, please wash your hands in the bathroom. When you come home, don't wash your hands in the sink, because you're bringing all this bacteria from the outside into your food preparation zone. Mm-hmm. Just simple tips like that. And what it is that we have destroyed the beneficial bacteria in our society. And unfortunately, these so-called fermented foods that people are eating, I get shivers, because most people don't understand how to make fermented foods. They don't even know what a starter culture is. And they don't know if they're contaminating their food while they're trying to culture it, or what else is going on. And the second thing why I'm still around after all these years is because people cannot get enough of the correct species and strains of beneficial bacteria from fermented food anymore, because the damage to our internal ecosystem has been so extensive. Mm-hmm. Does that mean, because let me give you some stats about only 7% of the women in the United States, if they're healthy and have a vaginal delivery of a child and breastfeed, are able to pass on the correct microbes to the newborn.
Yeah.
And that microbe that I'm talking about, Bifidobacterium infantis, has literally disappeared. It's a great concern to me. And people just go out and buy stuff on the shelf that are called probiotics, have no clue, because there's nobody in the family that grew up with this, that knew anything about these microbes or how they need to be reintroduced to the body to make us healthy. So all of this information has sort of been lost. And it's really promoted by companies who want to sell you products. And again, it's a very complex issue. And in order to bring our health back, we have to start from the proper supplementation of these organisms, because we've done to our environment to deplete these organisms from our body, whether it's because we're not giving these organisms from our mother, we're given artificial things from the day that we're born, where it's in the air, it's in the water, it's in the soil, over 200 chemicals in our food. God knows what's in our air and our water. So I always tell people, don't shoot me, I'm just a messenger. I'm telling you that there is a proper way to reinstate these proper microorganisms. You cannot just throw any organism in there and hope to bring it to an optimal balance, because because somebody studied this organism and tell you that it's going to take care of this symptom. You don't know if that organism is also going to tolerate other beneficial organisms inside the GI tract that need to inhabit that part of the GI tract to impart total health and benefits to you, the human being.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think this is where there's a lot of confusion, because let's say I know nothing about probiotics or health or anything, and I just hear the term, oh, probiotic, I should go get that. I go to the grocery store, Whole Foods or whatever, a health food store, or maybe I'm looking on Amazon, and I'm looking and I just see thousands of different products, hundreds of different products. They're all different. How do I know what bacteria, what strain, what dose, like what is the proper formula for somebody?
Well, I make it very simple. There's very few of me left in either in probiotics or the other dietary supplements or the food section that have this extensive experience. And the problem is, I said, if you're making living microbes, they have to be handled a certain way if they're beneficial to you under all conditions. Okay. In other words, microorganisms are a lot smarter than we are, and they won't behave if we abuse them. They have no incentive to behave. And then you have to go into what I call stronger organisms to meet a marketing position. Does that make sense? So marketing wants to make it easy for you. Say, oh, we're going to put all these beautiful packages on the shelf and we're going to call them shelf stable. There's no such thing. As the author of 2 probiotic labeling standard and the one read into congressional record, I'm telling you now that that temperature that they're talking about, shelf stability, does not exist in transportation and storage, and ignorant people taking something they think is shelf stable, putting it in a hot trunk, putting it on the windowsill, and then thinking that this product's going to perform for them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's number one. It's like when you have a living food, you have to handle it a certain way, right? You can't abuse it.
So how do you prevent that abuse from happening?
Well, this is why I set the standards, and that's why I'm still working. In other words, I tell them, first of all, who is the formulator of that product that you're taking? In the old days, people used to know the formulators. What's their training? Doctors are not taught how to formulate in medical school. They can read literature, they have a good trained mind, but that doesn't mean they understand food and cultured foods, especially, and how they should be prepared. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what I'm trying to tell you is that who has the experience and the knowledge to choose the right bacteria, to make sure that they're grown appropriately, and that they've evolved with humanity and under no condition can ever turn against the body. So when you go on the shelf, can you determine any of that? No, you can't, because 99% of those people are buying their product from some supplier. And that's the big problem in health food industry and alternative medical industry. You don't know who's really making the product that you're buying. Mm-hmm. Who's the formulator? Which individual person stands behind that product and tells you, yes, I have the experience. I made this product. I know what's in it. And I'm giving it to you with my best knowledge and best intent to make sure that you are only helped under any condition.
Right.
And because our situation is very serious, that's why I'm doing these podcasts. That's why I'm still working, because I could very easily be semi-retired and just enjoy myself. but the situation is very serious. The industry is in sort of chaos, and people are just selling anything to, with a marketing plan. And we can't keep doing that. It's just not good.
Right. Well, is there any guidance that you can, like, is there any strains or anything that someone can look for, refrigerated or non-refrigerated? Is there any safety net that someone can kind of say, okay, I know that this one would be good for me?
Yeah, well, I've chosen three organisms to work with and a fourth one. And the reason I did that is because Lactobacillus acidophilus has been in the health food field for at least 70 to 80 years. It's been in the literature for at least 100 years. People don't like to use that organism because it's difficult to grow, stabilize, and sell. They want easy. So that's one of the organisms I use, and it's a very important microorganism for your small intestine, where all of your absorption and final digestion takes place. Without an absorption, your food is not fueling your body. Okay? And the ability to communicate with the immune cells on that small intestinal wall to make sure the immune system does not overreact. Does that make sense? That's the job of the acidophilus, is to make sure that, the immune system cells tolerate food going through the intestinal wall into the bloodstream. And that's what all of your autoimmune diseases are. Some microorganisms sending a bad message to an immune system to overreact and start destroying a certain cellular structure of the body in order to defend itself from the immune system finding it. That's what autoimmune disease is.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think anybody explains it to anybody this way.
Right. So that's a specific strain that you recommend for immune health specifically.
Yeah, for immune health, for digestive health. And I've been, like I said, in this field for 54 years. And but I know it's not harmful at any level, and has evolved with humanity and has a vested interest in keeping us healthy, because we're the best territory for them to thrive. The objective of every microbe is for their kind to thrive. Mm-hmm. So they're always looking for the best environment for them to thrive. And if you abuse them, stress them out, there's no way they're going to perform for you, because they're not going to waste cellular energy to impress anybody. They've got an objective to multiply their own kind to be healthy. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, is there a specific dose and also timing of consuming probiotics, like before food, with every meal, with one meal?
Yeah, I can only talk about what I created, because I've done my homework, and not only my knowledge, but my love has gone into this. Like I said, I don't have to do this, but I'm doing this because I know that especially young people need help. So what I've done is, and I didn't finish, so there's a second bacteria that's for your large intestine. That's very important, because that's where your waste and disposal occurs. And if you're recycling toxins as a practitioner, that's not good. Right. So the Bifidobacteria need to dominate in the large intestine so they can make sure that, waste is removed on a timely basis. It's called transit time. And that your body has absorbed everything it needs from that food, and your immune system isn't upset. You're producing the neurochemicals for your brain, the serotonin and the dopamine for one, that you're producing enough GABA, enough tryptophan. Those are all the things that happen naturally if you have the right combination in your gut. And this is what we're missing today. And then I chose a third bacteria, which I call the longevity bacteria, that is part of the yogurt starter culture, and it's been studied over 100 years to have incredible communication with the immune system, to actually pre-digest food for us. Because the reason the immune system gets annoyed is if the particles that are larger than it deems safe try to enter the bloodstream. And then it overreacts. And that's what your allergic reactions are, your food intolerances. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So what I've done is I've taken these three bacteria and I've micro-enrobed them in oil. Why oil? because oil does not break down into stomach acid. Stomach acid is there to break down food and to kill bacteria. It's a really brilliant process if you think about it. So if you're taking live organisms, whether it's for food or with a specific supplement, they have to survive stomach acid or they're not going to do you any good. And people tell you they'll survive stomach acid, but nobody's requiring independent proof. But with oil, you don't need independent proof. It's physiology 101. Oil will not break down in the stomach. It will only be emulsified by bile. So your organisms need to be protected in the stomach, and they need to be bile tolerant, and they need to be safe at any level. Now you have a way that you are on a daily basis revitalizing that ecosystem, which seems to be totally destroyed in Western cultures. Because we know that autism, brain problems, depression, anxiety, learning disabilities are all related to what's going in the second brain in the gut. Mm-hmm. That's now become evidence that's not disputable anymore. So we have a problem with our children. We have a problem with our young people. We have a problem with our middle-aged people, and they're all popping pills for something, but they're not getting better.
Yeah. It's not addressing the root cause.
Yeah. And so I told everybody, get rid of your simple carbs, get rid of your processed foods. Even if you go to a health food store, I'm sorry, ladies or gentlemen, almond milk is not a milk. It's a processed food. Oat milk is not a milk. It's a processed food. Coconut milk is not a milk. It's a processed food. So is it as bad as the stuff you get in a grocery store? Of course not. But it's not a real food that your body has seen before in its experience in consuming nourishment. So you have to be careful when you make these foods, and everybody's allergic to dairy. Everybody's allergic to wheat. Well, I've got news for us. We better find out why, because that happens to be the staple in multiple healthy cultures around the world. If you look at the history, fermented food has been used in every healthy culture that's been recorded in literature. Mm-hmm. I don't know if most people are aware of that. So I said, if we're not tolerating milk products in our Northern American society, there's something vastly wrong. Because the people I know in Eastern Europe who consume it every day were very healthy until the wars came about. My parents, when they came to this country, didn't even understand half the diseases that people were talking about.
Wow.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I want to recap really quick. So the small intestine, you said acidophilus, large intestine, Bifidobacterium.
Correct. And the transient flora, Lactobacillus bulgaricus. And then I have a fourth organism, Bifidobacterium infantis, which is important for pregnant women, nursing mothers, newborn infants, because that's the bacteria that's not being passed through the vaginal tract, even by healthy mothers, to newborns in North America. And I think this is one of the leading problems that we have with learning disabilities and inability to tolerate anything, because the role of Bifidobacterium infantis is to build that tolerance, the immune system to tolerate food coming across the intestinal wall. And that's not being done with newborns. And that's why you're having a problem, huge problem in our country, where the newborns, allergic to everything.
So it's wiped out. No Lactobacillus bulgaricus being passed on in North America?
No, Bifidobacteria is not being passed on. Lactobacillus bulgaricus is very small amounts found in fermented foods. Lactobacillus acidophilus is not found in foods. It's not a good place to find in foods. You can only find it in specific supplements, and you have to meet its criteria for survival and health. Otherwise, it's not going to serve you. As I said, they don't waste their cellular energy to impress us. They do it because it's in their best interest. And this is one thing I think is a sign. And once you fix that ecosystem in your GI tract, and it's going to take a while because of the chronicity of the disease in North America and in Westernized cultures, it's going to take a while to fix this. It didn't that didn't occur overnight. So I tell people, don't expect it's going to, you can start feeling better, but you have to keep taking it because of all the pollutants we still have in the water, in the food, in the air. We need to change everything in order to get that whole healthy environment that they have in these areas still left in the world where people are healthy.
Mm-hmm. What about skin health? I know a lot of people think that we need to put creams and serums on our skin for like acne, eczema, and other skin issues. But I mean, I know that healthy skin is created from the inside out and not the outside in. So I'd love to hear your opinion on how digestive health and probiotics and everything are reflected in skin health.
Well, first of all, I can take myself as an example. I'm 75.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my skin looks pretty good.
Yeah, it looks beautiful.
So I think your skin is a mirror of what's going on in your intestinal tract. And most people don't know that 80% of the beauty of your skin comes from what's going on in your GI tract. Yes, you do need creams to help you out and specific serums, but if you're expecting that to change the glow of your skin or get rid of your acne, it's not going to happen. Your skin is like the last resort where the body throws out the toxins because it's not making it either through your urine or through your feces. It's very simple. Your skin is going to reflect what's going on in your digestive tract. So if you want to have beautiful skin, and I've worked with leading dermatologists around the world, I've published with a dermatologist from the University of Alberta. He has his own private practice. We've published work to show that my product was as good as a antibiotic in dealing with acne. Wow. And without causing yeast infections and without causing all these other problems. So rather than treating disease, I tell people, let's empower the body to heal itself. The body has the tools to heal itself if you give it the right tools. If you give your body the right help, and a lot of people just take supplements, don't even know what the heck they're taking, because unfortunately, there's no oversight. There's no agency, and not even an internal agency. Why do I know? Because I was one of the founding members of something called the True Label that was destroyed because most people found it bad for business.
What's and so, True Label?
Yeah, True Label was meant that you submitted to testing twice a year. You paid into your membership dues. Mm-hmm. And the industry decided in the 1990s and 2000s to withdraw their membership from something called the National Nutritional Foods Association because they didn't want to submit to a program called True Label. It was wonderful because it had members of manufacturing, retail, brokers, all of them sitting on a committee. It was called True Label Standards Committee. And we would, twice a year test products off the shelf, and still amazed to this day that 80% of the products we tested didn't contain in the bottle what they claimed on the label.
Yeah.
And that's a big concern.
That's huge.
Yeah. So it's not that the dietary supplements are not good. It's what people are selling that falls short. And I can tell by looking at the price of the product that they can't have what they're saying in the label because I know how much the raw material costs. Mm-hmm. We all knew that on the standards committee, and we were not there about putting anybody out of business. We were there to help people. Hey, let's fix your product, and then at the end they would just leave because they couldn't sell it for a price point they wanted to have and make the same claim. Mm-hmm. So this is why I'm here, not to trash anybody, but I'm saying, hey, look, we need to get back to the country. We need to have decent products. We need to educate the people how to discern what the good products are, to demand some kind of a standard that's reliable, not somebody on Google telling you the 5 best probiotics that you're going to choose. Absolutely makes no common sense whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. What about prebiotics?
Okay, that's a great question. Prebiotics used to be called fructooligosaccharides. They're molecules that are 3 deep of a sugar or a carbohydrates, and they're indigestible by the body. So they become direct food for the microbes, the 100 trillion microbes that line your GI tract from your mouth to the other end. Okay. So what I tell with prebiotics is that unless the organism you're using specifically will take that prebiotic, it can become food for other organisms that are not so friendly. And that's my biggest concern, that you're taking these prebiotics, assuming that they're food for the organism listed on the label that you're buying, but it's not necessarily so. Because any indigestible sugar or carbohydrate becomes the food for any microbe that's in your GI tract. Now, some of them may not have an enzyme to break it down, but there's certainly enough species. Usually each individual has between 150 to 170 species that will attack that prebiotic and use it for itself. I'll give you an example of a very bad prebiotic, and that's Splenda. That's two sugar molecules with a chlorine molecule injected in between to make it indigestible. So it's an indigestible sugar that becomes direct food for the microbes. And there's been plenty of studies to show that this causes huge disruptions in the microbiota composition that can lead to ill health.
Mm-hmm. What if someone's just getting their prebiotics through, because there's definitely, like, you can buy prebiotics, right? That's definitely bigger nowadays. But what if someone's just getting, the natural ones from food, the asparagus, the artichokes, the green bananas? Great. Okay. Yeah. That's what I like to recommend, is like whole food sources of that stuff, so that it's going to naturally feed the good bacteria, and also you're getting all the nutrients from that food as well. Yeah,
I love it. That's what I tell people. Make sure you chew it 10 times before you swallow.
Right.
So that it's broken down so that every entity that needs to use it can use it.
Yeah, such a good point. We really have a problem with not chewing our food in America.
Yeah, I tell people, there was another podcast I used to do, just teaching people to sit down, turn off their phone, get with a friend, start having pleasant thoughts, laugh, enjoy the mealtime. Don't wolf your food down, chew each bite 10 times, and really enjoy food. Food should be an enjoyable experience. You shouldn't be eating stuff that you hate or you don't enjoy.
Yeah, and even just like seeing the food, smelling the food starts to make your mouth water, starts to make those enzymes produce in your mouth. Taking some deep breaths before you start eating. You're actually prepping your body for digestion before you even put the food in your mouth, if you're setting yourself up that way.
Right. I like the French concept. They choose the best ingredients. They don't skimp. They choose the best ingredients, or whatever they have, even if it's a small portion. It's the best of the best and prepared in the best natural way it can be prepared.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah.
What else? Do you feel like we've missed anything, like any misconceptions or myths that you feel like you want to debunk? Or
yeah, I do. For instance, people think the more species of bacteria you have listed on the label, they're better. No, bacteria are mutually antagonistic. Now, just imagine if you're a very smart entity and now you're shoved into this capsule, which is a closed-ended system. No food is coming in, no waste is going out. They're not dormant. They're just in a state of arrested growth. So now they are going to try to dominate. Like I said, bacteria are mutually antagonistic, especially if you cramp them together in a closed-ended system, they're going to fight. And what I told people, okay, I make a multi-strain product, but only with 3 strains. But each strain, I list the specific potency of. You need to list the specific potency of each strain. Otherwise, what is it doing there in the product? If you can't list the potency and guarantee it through an expiry date, that's like buying a B complex and you don't know how much B1, B2, or B3 you're going to get in that product because it's all a total count. Wouldn't you be upset if somebody sold you a vitamin that doesn't break down each ingredient?
I think that's a really good point, and it's something I teach my clients a lot, because sometimes they'll come to me and they're like, hey, I'm taking this herbal supplement or this thing, what do you think of it? And I look at it and proprietary blend, right? We don't know what's in the product.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I have to teach them like, okay, if you don't know exactly what's in there, we have no clue the potency of it. And if it's going to work, because it is based on potency of how effective it is. So it's really, really good point.
And not only that, just to say about herbs, herbs, that come in from China have feces, rat hair, you name it. Where does the herb come from? What's the guarantee that it's pure and clean in that proprietary blend? And, when people start asking these questions, it becomes real easy to throw away 99% of the products because they don't give you this information. And it's very important information to know.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, you have to know what you're buying, what you're putting in your body. So please, any of those products that claim 4, 6, 8 strains, it's a total waste. Why? I spent 10 years on standards committees, and I say, if you're putting those organisms in the product, what are they supposed to do there? And what is the literature saying the potency of each of those organisms needs to be in order to have that effect?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying, that this is one way of making 1,000 private labels without having to do a lot of homework. You just change the names of the organisms and it looks like a completely different product. You say something else that's possibly true or not true. How does the customer know what's true and what's not true? They just trust what's on the label.
Yeah.
So, because we are in this space, and that's why I said I'm working, because not just to sell my products, I need to have people understand. I want good competition. I want people to understand what they're selling, to put their heart into it, to know that, there's nobody going to get hurt by buying these products or using these products.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I hope that makes sense.
It does. Yeah. I think this was really valuable for everybody. We're going to get into a speed round here in a second. And did you have any other last truths or things you needed to share?
Yeah, I think that we are in a time of our history that chronic disease has become a real issue. And we need to really discern valid approaches to getting our country back in good health. Because right now, autism is escalating to 1 in 2 by 2030. Colon cancer is escalating at a huge pace. Autoimmune disease, we need to do something radical to stop it.
Yeah. And you believe that's through gut health and
absolutely.
nutrition.
I haven't been, nutrition, gut health, and the message has to be the same. You cannot take radical changes in your diet from your genetic type. You can do it over a slow basis. And I tell young women, you want to become a vegan? You better get yourself enrolled in an Indian cooking class, because they're the only group that I know that has had decades of using, vegan food to sustain their body. Please don't go in the health food store and buy something because it says vegan. It's not going to cut it.
Yeah. Such a good point. You have to be able to know how to combine foods properly and to get the right protein amounts and everything.
Right.
And yeah, exactly. Culturally, Indian culture is really good at that.
Yeah, because they've had decades of experience. And, get the ones that make it from scratch, not the ones that use canola oil or do stuff. I mean, get the real stuff where they use ghee or other things to make their food that's natural.
Yeah, or there's even greenwashing of products where it's like there's vegan Oreos now, right? Or vegan,
oh my goodness,
ice creams and potato chips, but that doesn't mean it's healthy.
No, I just told people that, you want potato chips, even if you buy it in the health food store, it's not something you should be eating every day.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if you want a treat, do that. But, we need to know more. Before Whole Foods started, just to tell this to all your viewers, I was very good friends with Sandy Gooch. Sandy Gooch's stores, Mrs. Gooch, were the foundation for Whole Foods. I don't know if you know that.
No.
Her 9 stores in Southern California were bought out by, at that time, Whole Foods was our sub distributor out of Austin, Texas, and they got money from Wall Street, and they bought her 9 stores. And unfortunately, her very strict ethical points, which I was part of, started getting diluted. And as it evolved, it became more diluted, and she just would not carry certain things in her store. And potato chips, I laugh now because it used to be a big contention. She would only allow like 2 or 3 brands in. They had to be baked, and she really checked them out. And she would just tell people, hey, this is occasional. Don't eat this every day.
And now there's multiple aisles at Whole Foods, ice creams and potato chips.
I know. I mean, and I'm not criticizing Whole Foods. I'm just saying, look,
Right.
they're a business. They want to give you what you want, but you have to be the adult. You have to discern and decide what you're going to buy.
Yeah. Well, we're going to do a quick speed round.
Okay.
Okay. So first thing that comes to your mind. And the first question is, what is your favorite thing to do for stress reduction?
My favorite thing to do for stress reduction is folk dancing from the Balkans, listening to Macedonian music, and laughing with my friends and enjoying folk dances from the Balkans, Greek, Bulgarian, Macedonian. I love it. It just, I get happy when I listen to that music.
Oh, that sounds fun. I love dancing. I started dancing over the past couple years, and I've been learning different styles. So that's really cool that you enjoy dancing.
Yeah, and I love meditation. I love, just clearing my head and knowing that all this stuff is just, my creation. So just get rid of it. Stop being annoyed, and focus on positive things.
Mm-hmm. What are 1 to 2 impactful books that you've read?
Ooh, impactful books that I've read. I've read so many of them. Lately, I haven't been reading because most of the stuff that I know, but I've read impactful books that have to do with our society, that have to do with our natural living. Adele Davis, her book that's older than the Bible. I'm just teasing. She was my teacher in the beginning about eating natural foods. I love Adele Davis. Carlton Fredericks, an early friend of mine. Even going back to Jack LaLanne, physical fitness. The people that got into physical fitness, those are the people that sort of stayed with, because whether you agree with them or not, they were the people who had the imagery and things to do.
Mm-hmm. Last question is, if you could leave the listeners with 1 tip that they could implement this week to help them live a healthier, happier life, what would that be?
Stop fretting over things that are not important.
Mm-hmm.
Stop trying to control everything. Let some things go. It's not worth getting excited over. Just, let things go. Learn to enjoy your food, learn to enjoy your friends, learn to know what is really good for you and bad for you, and just let go. Stop being so stubborn about what you need to do. And I'm not saying become lazy, because all of us, I think, are achievers, but stop being so obsessive is the word I'm looking for.
I like that. Yeah, letting go of things that we can't change, not worrying about them, because it's like, what does that actually do for us? Just creates more stress, more anxiety, poor health. So that's a really good tip.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Do you want to share where people can find you?
Yes.
Anything else you want to share about your products?
I'm at Natren, NATREN.com. And we do have a thing called Ask Natasha. I've helped thousands of people, maybe millions of people so far. And I still have live people, not telemarketing people, but actually care. If you call in, they're going to actually help you with a diet, exercise program, and taking the right probiotics. And by the way, you can go on my website, natren.com, and get a free diet that we've had there for years. That was made. It's a low carb diet made by me and a medical doctor. And my friend, Joni Greggins, who is a nationally recognized fitness expert, her free walking exercises there. You don't have to buy a thing from me. Those are free to you if you come and visit. I'm happy to give that to you. And otherwise, you can call my staff, which is only 3 ladies, at 866, the number 4, and then you spell out the word Natren, Natren, and they'll help you structure a program to really, I'm here so that people can change their lives, improve their lives and change their lives. And I still get thank yous from people all the time. They use friends and my colleagues to any way to find me.
Mm-hmm. Well, what a wonderful gift for people. We'll put all that in the show notes. And yeah, thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you so much for your time. And I hope I've imparted information everyone can use.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like this video and comment, letting me know what you enjoyed and what you want to see more of. Also, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you get alerts when new content is coming out and you don't miss any videos. And just a quick reminder that this information is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any illness or medical condition. Please consult with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet, exercise routine, supplements, or medical treatment. If you're looking for a functional medicine practitioner, please reach out to me. And thank you again for watching, and keep striving to become your healthiest, happiest self.